kick-off team. And I'll ask Dale Marie, please.
Tēnā tātou I te whare, kia horo te marino, kia whakapapa pauna mu te moana, hei huarahi mā tātou I te rangi nei, aroha atu, aroha mai, tātou I a tātou katoa, hui e, tae ki e.
Thanks, Dale Marie. Okay, so start with apologies, and I have one from Marcus for absence and one from Claire for lateness. So could I remove a thank you, Lou, thank you, Mike, all in favour? Aye. Contrary, no. Carried. Disclosure of members' interests. Phil.
Just one, Ken's one, I think it's item 10 with regards to the tree trust.
Ah, yes. Right, okay, cool. Nothing else? Okay, that's noted. Late items. There being none, I'll move to confirmation of order of the meeting. No changes, Ken?
No,
all good.
Need to.
Could I, thanks, Bruce, and a seconder. Thanks, Dale Marie. All in favour? Contrary, no. Carried. Okay. The minutes of the meeting of April 16. Now, these have not been pre-circulated, possibly due to time constraints. But has everyone had a chance to have a look? Any alterations or, yeah, no, I didn't see anything. So could I remove that they're true and a correct record, please? Thanks, Monty. And thanks, Dale Marie. All in favour? Contrary, no. And it's carried also. So Cambridge Town Hall Community Trust Statement of Intent, item 6. And there's Kirsty.
And Simon is meant to be tuning in as well.
Right.
And,
awesome.
And sorry, you got the presentation? Yeah. Oh.
Welcome, Kirsty.
Thank you.
Here? Yeah.
I'm hoping that Simon might be here in a moment. I think we had about 1:07 on our agenda, so he might be on his way.
All good. Yep. So, oh, Andrew, you're going to introduce. Sorry, David. Welcome, David.
Through the chair, Andrew's my twin. So, yeah. Kia ora, Mr. Chairperson, members of the Finance and Corporate Committee. Today I'll present you a report for the Cambridge Town Hall Community Trust. This enables the General Manager and the Chairperson from the Trust to present their annual statement of intent for 24-25 and provide you with an update of their current situation. It is a requirement under Section 7 of the Lease and Services Agreement, so I'll pass through to you to Simon and Kirsty.
Thanks, David. So if you're happy to start, Kirsty, and Simon joins, that's all good with us.
Sure. So he's just sent a message and said his Zoom's decided to update right at this minute.
Oh, well, he'll be with us shortly. All good.
Yeah. So kia ora koutou. Thank you for having us again. Hopefully this is not too just disjointed, and please excuse our coughing and spluttering because Simon has COVID and I have a cough that has decided not to go away. So we've decided not to come in and share all of our bugs with you today. So as David said, today we're here to present our 24-25 Statement of Intent. But before we do that, we thought it might be a good idea to give you an update and give you a bit of an insight into how we're tracking so far this year. And I'm not sure, have you got our slides up?
No, we haven't, but they're coming up now, Kirsty, and I think they're on the screen now. Thank you.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if you know, but Simon is with us now.
Kia
ora everyone. My laptop decided it needed an update to Zoom suddenly, so there we go. But I'm here now, so kia ora everyone. Kia ora koutou.
Very good. And how do we get through to the next slides? Is that something at your end? Perfect. And maybe let's go one more. Here we go. So there are 2 months remaining in our current year, obviously, but it's worth taking a look at how we're tracking to date. So looking back, so this is just our overview of what we're going to do. We're going to give you an update on the current renovations, some of the challenges and learnings that we've been experiencing over the last year. And then we'll move on to look forward, and so obviously introduce our 24-25 SOI, just touching briefly on the KPIs and on our fundraising plans at the moment. So just flip next slide. Thank you. So the next few slides show a bit of feedback from our post event surveys, which we offer to all of the hirers of the hall, and they can choose whether they want to answer them or not, obviously. So the early trends kind of assist us in analysing where we've come from, but most importantly at the moment, they tell us kind of where we need to head to, and which is particularly important as we table this SOI. So based on the question, how likely are you to recommend the Cambridge Town Hall to a friend? You can actually build a net promoter score on this, and some of you will know, I'm sure. So according to the creators of the NPS, or Net Promoter Score, anything above 0 is good, anything above 20 is great, and anything above 50 is amazing. So based on these results, our current score is 80, which puts us actually in the top percentile, which is great at this point in time. And the feedback from those that we surveyed, it demonstrates that people really value the location of the hall, the fact that the town hall is a heritage building, and the affordability. And not surprisingly, we've actually had a lot of great comments and feedback about our staff as well. If we move to the next slide. So as you can see from the graphs on this slide, we're getting a really diverse range of people organising their events at the Cambridge Town Hall. So about half are from Cambridge, just under a quarter from Hamilton, and the rest are from other parts of New Zealand. And you can also see that there are quite a wide range of ages of groups organising the town hall, organising their event at the town hall. So we go right from the under 25s right through to those over 65, and there's a good wide range of people using it. If we move on to the next slide. So when we change the slide here, you can see that the attendees from the events held at the town hall are coming from the Waikato, but also from beyond that. So close to 21% from Cambridge, 31% from the wider Waipa area, and 16% from Hamilton. And then you can see there's that other section just there. And so in the next slide, you can see that we had 32% of attendees were coming from other. So of that 32%, this is the breakdown here of that. So we're getting really attendees from all over New Zealand come and use the Cambridge Town Hall, which is really great to see, I think. And I mean, what we're seeing here is actually really heartening for our trustees, and it kind of dispels the myth that the funds put into the Cambridge Town Hall are just for the residents of Cambridge. So yeah, that's good. If we move on to the next slide. Here we have a comparison of the income made from the hall in the last year to date, and it's comparison to the full, so obviously this is only to the end of April, and the years before that are all full years, so it's not quite apples to apples, but you'll see what we're trying to achieve here. It's pretty self-explanatory. This year is tracking by far as the hall's most successful income year in the last 10 years. Income has almost doubled from the averages that we've got there. And just one thing I wanted to note in here is that we haven't increased our prices this year. So this really is a reflection of the activity going on in the hall. Fees are set to increase next year though, particularly in that private space. And so we've structured the fees so that community groups are effectively getting about a 60% discount. But of course, that community discount is only possible if we have the sufficient funds for our operating budget. And I'll pass you over to Simon on that note on the next slide.
I think we froze just then, and I'm suspecting it's my next slide. Is that right?
Oh, yes. Thank you, Simon.
Great. Hey, thank you, everyone. Sorry about that. We seem to be back in COVID Zoom days again. But so look, what we're doing here is we thought we'd put a graph together showing the active days in the hall. We can measure how many bookings we have. But I've chosen here to do with active days, and I have flipped to the calendar year. And so we're seeing quite an uptake here, getting close to 70% of this current calendar year having already had an event, a confirmed event or a penciled event in the calendar, and we're still taking bookings. So that's quite a heartening number. I read on the Wellington District Council's website the other day that a community hall which has somewhere greater than 45 is looking pretty good. So I think that's tracking really well, and we're seeing a really good uptake. Just so it's really clear, of course, in terms of active days, that might mean a day has a full day booking. It might be a half day. It might be a 2-hour booking. So but that's just a little snapshot of where we're going. So I expect that number to continue to rise as we see out this year. So I think if we want to move forward to the next slide.
Simon, are you happy to take questions as you go along, or? Simon?
Oh, might have frozen.
Great, so I thought we'd share, oh, sorry, if there's a question, happy to take it, yes.
Oh, okay. Roger.
Yeah, hi Simon, Roger. I think that the kind of occupancy you're showing there is absolutely fantastic. Are you getting close to being at a time when you need to manage the weekend capacity or availability to get, greater value bookings in at high peak times? Are you getting towards that state?
Yeah, it's a really good question. Thank you, Roger. And I'm happy to answer that now. It comes up a few times. I think you can take from the two graphs, you can look at the income and where that's tracking, and then you can look at the usage of days, and you can see actually it gets to a pinch point where it'll close out soon. So to answer the question on weekends, Fridays, Saturdays are a premium. I don't deal with the day-to-day bookings, but I'd say if you want a Friday or Saturday for the rest of the year, you'll be very hard pressed. There may be 3 or 4 available, but it is a discussion that has to happen in terms of the model going forward and the business plan as to would there be rules, and I'm not saying we're going to do this, but it's a conversation that has to happen. Are there going to be rules which might mean people on those premium days, the popular days, may only be able to book if they were to, say, take a full day booking, which would then result in a higher income? Now, I'm not saying we should, but it is a conversation we could have. It really needs to have a large conversation around what the hall's for and who it is for and the community. And there could be some pros and cons to that, both for the user and for us as and the Waipa District Council. So yes, that is a conversation I think that can happen in time. I think this is probably where we need to get to the pinch point around the OPEX budget, because somewhere in there are some decisions that may have to be made.
Thank you.
Ka pai. So in terms of just some KPI tracking there, we thought we'd just share where we're tracking, even though we've got a few months to go on the current set of KPIs. So you can see there those which have been achieved to date. So it's pretty self-explanatory. Happy to flip over if we've had a good chance on those. To the next slide. So there's a couple in progress. I've got in progress, and after that needs progressing. Some of these in progress, you could argue, could flip into achieved, but I've left them in progress. Things like 65% higher satisfaction. We've got a good number there at the beginning, but we've still got 2 months, and who knows, anything could happen if we had a change of scene. So I've left those in there as in progressing, but feeling pretty comfortable about most of those. But just thought I'd give you this update at this point. And if we flip over to the next slide, there's a few more in progress to cover off. they're all pretty achievable. So then if we go have a look at what sort of needs some attention or needs progressing in the next slide. There's a couple of things here which are perhaps falling into a bit of a grey area, particularly around our connection and meetings with mana whenua. We actually recently had the most fantastic workshop with Ngāti Koroki Kahokura, and Kirsty will speak to that a bit later. So that was really good. So some of that work is somewhat in transition. I think where we're at with that is we need to tighten up the scope of what that looks like. So we're pursuing that at the moment. And things like at the bottom there, the wayfinding and the security systems, they really fall into the current renovations that we have. And noting that those renovations sort of kick off in November with hammers and nails going. They're sort of falling into there. But the work towards those has actually been done. Quoting and advice around what kind of security, for example, we need in the hall has been sought by about 4 suppliers. So that's some work, again, that needs progressing, but could also fall into being underway. So a little bit of information there just to keep you up to date on how we're going on our current KPIs. So if we want to go over to the next slide. Kirsty.
I'll take over on this one. So as you know, as Simon just mentioned before, planning has begun for the initial stages of our minor renovation. I call it minor because there is a major one, of course, that we're hoping will happen. And that is the works on the Victorian room and the Edwardian room. So we've now, if you flick over the slides, we've now engaged a project manager, an architect and kitchen designer. We've got a structural engineer on board, a quantity surveyor and a fire engineer. And so the architects have presented us with some concept designs, and we're in the final stages of signing those off. The plans are for a new commercial kitchen, of course. This will be nothing new to you, I'm sure. For the new commercial kitchen and a new bar in the Edwardian room. New toilets and a kitchen and bar facility in the Victorian room. And what we're hoping is that with that Victorian room, that it can then be used independently once it has bathrooms and things in there. And we're hoping that that will appeal to a commercial type audience, which would be good. So the rooms have been designed with a wider view of what will happen in the future. And although it's not in scope, the architects have actually designed a really increased foyer space, which is really exciting for us. So the plans are that those side rooms will then feed into a foyer area, which changes completely the way that the hall operates. And as you would expect, our budget's quite tight, but we are hoping, and we're putting feelers out to see whether we can get any kind of additional funding to try and do that foyer space at the same time as doing the 2 side rooms, because it would change everything about how the hall's used. So by the end of September, we're hoping to have the detailed designs through, and then construction is planned from November onwards. And the plan is that it will take around about 7 months, so it should be finished around mid next year. And of course, there are people to consult through that, and Simon and his team are doing a great job of letting people know and trying to work through the logistics of how everything will pan out. If you flick over the slide. So one of the things that our architects delivered, and Simon touched on this before, was a series of workshops that gave them some feedback about how the space is currently used and how it can be used in the future. And from this, we had the 3 workshops, which you can see up there. One was for the Victorian and Edwardian rooms, 1 kitchen workshop, and then 1 workshop with mana whenua. And the workshops are great for 2 reasons, really. The first one is because it allows us to understand the requirements of the hall, because, of course, as we know, the hall is not just for one use. It's a multi-purpose space that has to fit in for lots of different people and different purposes. And secondly, because it helps us bring parts of the community along on our journey, and our trust is really passionate about that, about making sure that we are connecting with the community to make a space that's usable for all of them. And I'll flick you back to Simon now and the next slide.
Oh, thank you, Kirsty. And just to add to that, from the workshop, I think a key part, I attended all three workshops, as did our project managers and architects and some of our trustees, is ensuring that all the spaces and potential new spaces and existing spaces are actually welcoming for all communities. And that was a really big topic, not just in how the hall can operate, how it can be used, but actually making sure it is actually welcoming. And that's a really key thing that we need to really deliver if we want to make sure that all people, all ratepayers in the region and all hirers from around the country really feel welcome in our place, and we can sort of show them that sort of support or place to be. So I think that's really an important thing that came out of that day. So look, just going ahead, I'm going to touch on some challenges and some learnings that we've kind of come across. Obviously, there's some things to celebrate, I think, in some of those numbers in terms of where they're heading. And certainly is encouraging. And some parts of that have been pretty straightforward and pretty obvious. And other parts of that's actually been a little bit challenging. And I suppose at the top of that operationally is quite a culture change on how people engage, use, book, and hire the hall. And it's quite a different experience. Many will know that there's staff on site, there's many more services on site, there's a different way of booking the hall. Most, everything is, through the website, booking forms that comes into us and making sure the hirers submit all their information to us digitally. If you can imagine, with the significant increase in the number of bookings, a significant increase in the number the quantity of information that we have to process. And so I suppose the venue has gone from something where information about bookings is sort of somewhat held in people's heads to really it's quite important or imperative that all information is now digitized, because holding some 128 individual bookings in one's head is obviously not possible. That's quite a change. That's no problem from our end, but for some of our users, that's quite a change that they have to now fill in a very different form and do everything digitally. Many people, of course, like to do things over the phone. So actually just working out those models for the town hall, for the community, but also for us to make sure we can meet the obligations, that's actually been quite a hard piece of work. And I think behind that, in the background, those conversations and those changes have actually been drawing on a lot of soft skills from the trusts and us to really bring people on that journey, because it is quite a change. So very easy to fill days with events or increase bookings, one might say, when it was maybe not used enough. But actually behind that is actually quite a significant amount of work and time. So really good to see those numbers coming through. It makes the work worthwhile. And I suppose that really we have a sort of new business model and a little bit from scratch. So it's not always predictable. Challenges, it's not always so predictable where flare-ups of work may come at us at different times. But I think in time, things will settle into a more BAU stance. But just to share that. Events, look, they're looking fantastic. It's great to see people using the hall, bringing their events, but also we've obviously, as you know, delivered a variety of events, and that's been important to test the hall and continue to test the hall and how it's used to find sort of the knowledge on what works for that venue. And I think we've had a couple of concerts that are classical, and then recently, a singer-songwriter, fantastic artist out of London who happened to be in the neighbourhood, and we've changed the layout of the room and how people come in, and that's really been interesting. What I can currently see as trends is there's no specific day that is better or worse for events or times, but what is interesting is things like income from the bar is not what one would expect for a sold-out concert. If we looked at the Autumn Festival, fantastic Vivaldi by candlelight, sold out audience of 280 people, and there was a bar open. I think it took $380. Really, really interesting. Whereas when we look at an event just recently with Blair Jolins, pop artists, it's a different genre. That took a much better bar, but we also changed how people came into the hall, and that's a learning. So bringing them in through the Edwardian room past the bar, maybe a reason why the bar on that one went better, because people tend to come into the hall in a genuine admission seating arrangement, grab their seat and want to hold on to it. So those kind of experiments are really important. The activation for the community, but they're also, they're not just frivolous. They are really learnings for us to really test the model of how the venue moves into that professional space. So some really good things coming out of that, and the way the hall can function. And I think if we look back over the last year, we've had some phenomenal international artists come and experience events in our hall. And I will name, you've got, you know, the likes of James Judd, conductor emeritus of New Zealand Symphony, and Gemma New, who you can't get in her diary for 3 years for her international touring career as a conductor with the leading orchestras, LA Phil, New York Phil, etc., all over the world. When they come into the hall, they speak of what a wonderful acoustic it has. And I think that's one of the big learnings since I've been here. I'm quite surprised how many people talk about the acoustics not being good, yet we have internationally renowned artists coming in, and even Blair, our pop artist, recently said, wow, what an amazing hall. And I take heart that I won't name the person, but a prominent New Zealand guitarist recently attended an event in our hall. And afterwards, he apologized to me for slightly slagging off the acoustics of the hall. Post the event, he said I was wrong. This is absolutely fantastic. And it's all about how we use it. So I suppose that takes us into the CapEx and the renovations and all the equipment that we need to buy. We've sort of lost a bit of momentum, I suppose, with the uncertainty around the OPEX budget over the last 7 months. And that's really created quite a bit of loss. A bit of loss of time and a little bit of loss of momentum, but also uncertainty in where we go in terms of activation, both for the building, for staffing, and events. And I just want to touch on that because everything plays into each other. And if we can speak of the renovations and the operations singing and dancing together, so to speak, take one item, a sound system. We have the money in the budget that you've allocated to us for a sound system, but we have uncertainty in the OPEX whether we can have a technical person on site to actually operate it well. So we're actually very much in chicken and egg for the last few months, which has been a massive challenge to getting things done and a massive challenge to how we actually progress forward. And it has, personally to me, and I will share this, at many times it has created a situation where I'm unable to do my job for everybody and really making this place sing and dance. This uncertainty has been really quite a significant challenge, more than just numbers, but really going on to all the subcommittees of the trust, go right into the renovations. And I gave one example, but those multiply across all our projects. So this has been a really challenging time. And I know we all look forward, and it's been challenging, I know, for the council. So we'll all look forward to the LTP next year when we sort of have that longer view of what funding looks like, because year to year by the financial year is already a challenge in an arts world which operates in a calendar year. So there's some challenges there, I think, that have been really hard. And look, we have some positives there, but just to share that. And I want to talk about the staffing now. If we can jump forward to the slide as the challenges. So the OPEX budget has created an uncertainty as to if we can actually have the staff that we require beyond 30 June this year. So I just thought very quickly, venue staffing need to be skilled and specialised. We're moving to a professional venue. That's all very obvious. Resourced and equipped to succeed. So if it's a technician, sound, lighting, audio, all that kind of thing, they need to be have the right equipment and be resourced to do their job, and all other roles, of course, within an organisation. Have a clear mission of what they're going to deliver and the company's expectations. Really importantly, evolve with the industry and with the hapori. So in terms of the industry is continually changing. We attended the EVANS, Events Venues and Association of New Zealand's conference last year. You know, to see the technology and the way the industry is moving, We have to have the staffing and the skills and the time, I suppose, to make sure we are keeping up with the industry so that when people do hire the hall, we are on par with what they expect. And also, the community is changing. It's changing how it's using the hall, and we need to meet that, and we need to work with those communities to make sure that they're welcome and that their event can be a success as we actually grow new communities. And I think the last point, before I just have a few slides showing some comparative staffing of other venues, but the last point is really, I think, important in terms of if we think of the New Zealand culture, we often champion the underdog. We often love someone who's poured their heart and soul into something and made it fantastic and amazing. And I think that's really, really cool. The only issue with that is often when those people leave, you can have a vacuum. And so I think it's really important that a community hall, like a town hall, a community music group, a culture group, or any society can achieve longevity and success over a long period of time through careful planning and careful resourcing and careful staffing. So we don't sort of have boom and bust. And I think that's a danger that we might fall into if we don't have some kind of sustainable funding across the period. And I know we're in an enhanced annual plan time, but that's just a really important point, that if the hall is to be maintained, it needs a sustained approach. So if we just flick to a couple of slides as we move forward, I thought I would just share some comparative venues from around the country and the level of staffing. So currently we have myself and our venue manager, the fantastic Monique. But just looking at what some other venues similar to ours might have, Carlton Event Centre, I think is a really good one to compare to. Turner Centre, that's actually quite a large venue. Pump House, smaller venue than ours. If we jump over to the next slide. A couple more examples. Toi Toi and Hastings. I would hazard a guess some of those might not be full-time and there may be some roles within here. For example, someone like marketing might be on a 0.3 or a 0.5 contract for some of these. So, and I think Meteor might have a more part-time role, but just a bit of context about what staffing is. And I think the other part of it is staffing for us is both in that theatre, performance, event space, but also we're also that wedding and life event space. So really important that we actually have to have staffing that goes not just for performance, but also into those sort of community groups. So we have to find the right approach for Cambridge, I suppose, will be the answer there. So look, that's just a few thoughts on staffing and some of the challenges that have just been sitting there, but very happy to progress past. So if we just move on to the next slide, looking forward.
So one thing that Simon didn't mention there was that when you think about staffing, he's talking very operationally about staffing, but in actual fact, there's a really big strategic role in there as well. And that's kind of where Simon's role's fitting in at the moment, is a lot of that strategic stuff, the things that are required from our lease and services agreement. And there's a whole bunch of things that need to be done outside of the day-to-day operations. So just wanted to mention that a little bit before we move on. So this one is looking forward, and I'm aware we're going over time probably. So this is really why we're here. So for the 24-25 SOI, I'm not going to go into any great detail because I believe you've all had a copy of that for the last wee while, and hopefully you've had an opportunity to have a look at it and digest it over the last week or so. There shouldn't be any surprises in it because really all it's doing is building on the work that we have done, that we set out in the 10-year strategy and the activity management plan that were presented last year. So our strategic vision continues with its three principles: to connect, to activate, and to enhance. So as you read through the SOI, the underlying theme of the next year is really about starting to make those significant improvements to the building. So those are the changes that I talked about in the capital project. So to do this, the activation of the hall in some ways may take a little step to the back burner, but it doesn't disappear completely, of course. And if you go to this slide, sorry. Within this SOI, you would have seen our KPIs. So a question that you might have, and our trust board certainly had while we were reading it, while we were designing it, is why we were aiming to maintain the income levels and the utilisation levels and not increase them. And the reason for that is because we know that a lot of, there will be some time in the next year where the hall will be out of operation as we do the works on it. And so even to maintain those might be a bit of a challenge. Simon talked about diversity of events before, and our KPIs for next year also reflect that. So one of the KPIs that we've designed is built around delivering diverse events across the year. And it stops us from taking in just those events that make us the most money, and it helps us cater for the wider community, because after all, we know that it's a community hall, and we want the Cambridge Town Hall to be at the heart of the evolving community. So to draw people in for celebration, for entertainment, safety, remembrance, mourning and solace. And the Cambridge Town Hall is a place to learn, to share and to showcase people's creativity. So we don't want to lose sight of that. And that's why we've put that in our KPIs. In another section, I'll just draw your attention to quickly, is the progress of our capital works. We were hoping to have a costed master plan in the next few months, but obviously with the uncertainty around the LTP and the potential gap in our operational funding, we've slowed our momentum, as Simon said, and we've actually put that project on hold just for now. So depending on a few things coming together in the next few months, we still plan to have that costed master plan by the end of next financial year, so over the next year. And so just to note that the Trust hasn't lost its vision for that major project. And I'll hand you over to Simon to talk a little bit about that fundraising stuff.
Yeah, so just if we go to the next slide, just very quickly, two little things that are coming up. In June this year, we'll do our first annual appeal. That's to increase our income on top of the hireage that we bring in, because the modelling will mean that the hall will cost more than the operations grant. So we also need to stump up quite a large figure. So we're looking to have our annual appeal and driving that in June and then subsequent years. And with the enhanced annual plan and the sort of significant financial support for the major capital works or master plan in the future, the Trust has opted to be bold and see if we can raise or get as close to raising the full $25 million in the next year, which is quite a task. I suppose, if I can quote Rob, we need to go for it as best we can. And that, I think, presents an opportunity for all of us in the partnership, in that when we come to the LTP next year, if we put in some work in the coming, strong work in the coming 8 months, we might be able to come back and say, look, this is where we've got to, and have a clearer picture for you of what the appetite is there for some large donors. And we make no apology. We really are after people who have the ability to give us numbers that are about 7 figures. We won't get there on small grants. So we have started those meetings. The invites have gone out and we're in the process of doing that, but we're making no apology. We have no option but to ask people for very large sums of money and look and see how we go on that one. Carrying forward to the next slide.
Good. So I guess that's it. That's our, oh, sorry, I missed one. Sorry, Simon.
That was just a quick recap of what we get for, or what you get for your investment. I suppose there's many things. I just thought there was a bit of a slide there of what the Trust provides, I suppose, in the partnership between us. So I think yeah, we can move to questions if there's time and if people are willing and wanting. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks very much for that, Kirsty and Simon. And I know there's questions around here. Phil's been sitting on one for a wee while, and then Roger. So Phil.
Thank you, Andrew, and thanks, Kirsty and Simon, for your report today. It's not really a question, just a couple of really good comments. First of all, you talked about the layout, Simon. I was at the guitarist that was come back from London and walked in through the Edwardian room and saw your semicircle, the way you had the chairs laid out and everything. It looked really awesome. It was quite striking. So well done on that. And the workshops, they they were really great. So it was really, you would have got a lot of benefit out of that, but also the stakeholders and people that were invited to that workshop. I was lucky enough to come along. It was really good to be inclusive and have an opportunity, all of us have an opportunity to give you some feedback and some ideas, but it would have been helpful for you guys in the project in the long run. So thank you. Thanks for your report today. It's really great.
Roger.
Thanks through you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, really, really exciting seeing this moving forward. And maybe I should know this, and maybe I went to sleep sometime during the last year, but going back 12 months ago, we talked about the application for a liquor license for the trust to operate its own bar facility. And then, of course, if you're investing in a new kitchen, if there is a liquor license, then there's an assumption that an enhanced bar facility and storage would be necessary. Can you tell me what's the progress? Has that been achieved, the license, and what are the plans going forward?
Thank you. I think I lost about just over half the question, but I think it's around the liquor license and the renovations. Have I got that correct?
Yep. Sorry, that was a yes.
Sorry, Simon, do you want to answer that one? Because as you're closest to it. Oh, we've lost him maybe. So
Sorry, it cut out my end.
Do you want to answer that question, Simon?
I actually missed most of it. Sorry if it cut out. I'm
Okay,
happy if you want to answer it, and I can jump in if there's more I can add.
Right. So in order to get the liquor license, the venue actually has to be changed to be a function centre, I think it is. And so that's a reasonably major change. And one of the things that we had thought we'd do is we would try and do the resource consent to do the piazza, to get more use out of the piazza at the same time that we did the liquor licensing. And we thought that might save us some costs and things in the long term. It's turned out to be a little bit more difficult than we thought. And we've been working with some of the council staff around there's been, some changes in how the rules are applied, I think, around the piazza use and things. So Simon has just picked that up again, and we are doing quite a bit of work on that resource consent. But in the meantime, what we've been doing is just applying for a liquor license each time we need to for an event. Oh, and in terms of the bar facility, sorry, there is a plan to have a new bar in the Edwardian room, which will do that. And then in the longer term plan, I talked a little bit about the foyer, and the plan is that we will have a bar in that space, and that will change, hopefully, the way that the hall is used in that way.
Okay, so having to put in a separate application each time you want to use it, that's committing you to a lot of extra work, isn't it? Which is, I would have thought, it's unfortunate that it's necessary.
Yeah, it's the first one was painstaking. I'd say I've got them down pat now. I'm going to have them done in under an hour. And also you can apply for multiple events or multiple dates in one application. So it's getting a little faster. But yeah, it is something we want to do. But it's at this stage, where we do need a liquor license, we do have one, yes.
Okay, so Claire, and then I've got a couple of comments. And
yeah, okay. Thanks. Lovely to hear how you're going with the project. And yeah, congratulations. I think you're doing a wonderful job. I attended the Vivaldi concert and really loved the acoustics. The sound was amazing. Wonderful to hear it. Yeah, in a place that I live, so that's great. The question I had was really around the technicians that you're wanting to have added to your staff. So is there a way to do that cost effectively? Because I imagine that you don't need to have them there 100% of the time. Like, are you able to work out an arrangement so they're there, for the events that they need to support? Like, I'm just conscious of, how much that might add to the budget, and it'd be great to have an undertaking from you that you guys can manage that, you know, in the most cost-effective way that's possible.
Yeah, thank you for that. Very happy to have a chance to talk to that. In terms of, I touched on a Cambridge solution for the Cambridge Town Hall, because it is such a, it's used for so many different events. So I suppose the staff I would look for would be unicorns, people who can cross multiple disciplines. So in terms of the technical, that wouldn't be that they would only do sound or equipment all day. They would be required to assist with the booking processes. So at the moment, there is a bit more work than the two of us can actually do. So it all flows on in terms of what people do. So they're a technician, but they will also work with our bookers or our hirers. And then they're quite pivotal in actually getting what's called a tech writer written up. Now, tech writer is just basically a be-all, end-all document of a booking, but it also very importantly has quite a substantial health and safety form that goes behind that lists all the risks, the mitigations of all of that. So the technical person would actually, across every event, need to make sure that we are really addressing every risk that there is with everyone's event, everything they're bringing into their hall. And actually, there's quite a bit of documentation that has to go behind that. And that's really important to protect the building, the staff, the hirers, and the trust and the council. So if the question was, can we have a part-time person? I think the answer is definitely no, because we need someone with very good skills at a very high end of a professional venue, but also we need their time. And as the building actually gets busier, we need more staff. I think the contrary to it is there's a point at which we may have to have the conversation of how many bookings can we actually manage and how many bookings can we actually reasonably take. I'd say we're on the cusp. So what I don't think we all want to do is say, you know what, we're managing as many bookings as we can right now with the resource that we've got. So there are some available days, but let's not use them because we can't actually cope with more. So it's a really a chicken and egg situation, and there's many parts to what we need. And I think the other part is that, you know, a part-time marketing person, we have a contract at the moment, but getting across that, it's really vital for when people hire the hall that they know they're coming to Cambridge. And the question we get from promoters is, can you support us getting an audience there through your channels and your networks? And that's a really key piece of work that also has to take place. So there may be an arrangement where a technician may be shared, but of course, if you've got one person needing to be in two places at once, it's not a great thing.
Yeah, okay. Hey, so look, thanks very much for that presentation. And I think you need, you know, real congratulations for getting stuff happening there. And not just stuff, really good, successful events that people have thoroughly enjoyed and are giving great feedback on. That's fantastic. Look, we hear your frustrations, and I think I can say we share your frustrations. Funding is proved to be a real major problem for council and in every area that we endeavour to. And on that note, I think again some congratulations for taking the bull by the horn and saying yes, we need some big numbers, and having that aspiration is the first step towards achieving it. So well done on that too, and we absolutely wish you every success in those endeavours here. So I think on that cheery note, that's great. Does anyone else want to have Liz, did you want to have a quick word?
No, I mean, look, I was going to probably not say a lot today because I always say so much about the town hall, but you guys are just doing a bloody incredible job, and I know it's not easy. It's not an easy time. So yeah, keep going, keep your head up high. we'll support you as much as we can, but obviously, it's like everyone has said, it's just a tricky time, but geez, you guys have, the bookings you're bringing through there now, what a credit you are. You really are. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, look, on that, we're pretty up for time, so I'll move to the motion on page, whatever it is, 20, that we, thanks Phil, and a seconder please, thanks Dale Marie. All in favour? Contrary, no. That is carried, and great job. Keep up the good work. Cheers.
Thank you everyone for the time.
Okay, all right. Well, we've now moved to item 7, and I think I saw Nada in the room. And Yolanda. Awesome. Welcome, ladies. Floor is yours.
That's on. We're on. Afternoon, everyone. We have the financial results at the end of April. The total income is currently at 75% and expenditure, we're at 82% of the forecast. Our development and reserve contributions is at 7.2 million to date. And compared to last year, that's pretty much almost double. So that's looking good that that's slowly coming back up. Our capital expenditure is 58% of the forecast. And our rates, we have 16.2 million owing, which includes the final instalment, which is due 21st of May. And I'll take any questions.
Questions? Mike and Roger.
Also, just a statement through the chair. I think I read 135,000 owing from last year, which we'd be very, very happy with, wouldn't we? In terms of it's basically hardly anything owing on rates.
Yeah.
Was that 135 I read now? It was minimal, absolutely. 138. So hey, that's phenomenal as a council. And I guess hopefully.
And a reasonable chunk of that is 3 ratepayers that
Yeah.
have gone through a process.
So no, well done.
Roger.
Yeah, good. Thank you very much. I don't know if you recall last month's meeting, and I highlighted 3 expenses that were over 100% then, and you said that you'd get back to me. Haven't heard anything. But I do notice that the district museums, last month it was 1552, and it's actually gone down to 1408 in its expenditure. So obviously there must have been something amiss there. Could you background what it was for me?
I would have to go and have a look, but I am picking it may have been an accrual that hasn't been picked up, but I will go back and have a look and get back to you. And with the other one you were talking about, were you talking about the income?
No, these were both all in the expenditure column.
Okay.
And it was district museums, it was properties, and it was waste management.
So the waste management is
We've talked about that already.
Yeah. And can you write the other 2 and I'll come back to you.
Promise this time?
Yes, sorry.
Good, thank you.
So through the chair, I think there was also some questions in the roading or the transport space, and those answers were provided, but those are different, are they, Roger? That must have been another question. It's actually recorded in the minutes, and we did respond to that one. Yeah.
Okay, so yes, if we could follow that up, that'd be great. Thanks. Claire.
Yeah, thanks. I've got about 3 questions, and sorry I didn't send them through earlier. And also, Yolanda, thanks for that clarification about the colour, which was great. My question is on the bottom of page 6 of your report, or page 40 of our agenda, about the increases in subsidies and things like that. Because on the second to last line, it mentions an increase in external funding of 1.5 million for Te Arawai, better off funding. So I mean, I guess this is from the beginning of the year. So is that from when it was originally provided? Because it just seemed, don't remember seeing it there before, that's all. Yeah, so I just wanted to check that that was correct, that it wasn't another name for the Better Off funding. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that one has been there for quite some
Oh, yeah.
time. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, all right, that's cool. Then on the statement of capital expenditure, which is on page 43, and this might have been something that you were just referring to about roads and footpaths, because I noticed that the vested assets, the roads and footpaths are at 163%. Yeah, and is that because of those cycleway projects, which was asked last meeting, and I'm just wondering if it's showing up now, but I wouldn't have thought they'd been vested yet. In fact, I don't know if they would be vested.
No,
because we're
no,
building
those
them.
won't be
Yeah.
vested.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, so it just, yeah, so actuals, 7 million, yeah, and this is, yeah, nearly twice as much as expected, yeah.
Yeah,
So if you could just
I can look
get
in-
into
yeah,
that? Yeah.
certainly.
Yeah, and then there was talking about the rates report and looking at the amount owing from prior years, but also the rates for this financial year. We've got an increase in penalties, and in our previous report, we had the number of properties that were in those arrears, yeah, for the current year. And I don't think we got that this time, but I would be really interested in that, to get that regularly reported.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think we've got it for the water, but yeah, just.
Yeah,
looking
yeah,
at
there is for the
yeah,
water.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but sorry, through the chair, can I just clarify those penalties? Because I believe that last year, or the comparative figure, we only had a 3% penalty. And of course, this year we're back to the 10% penalty.
Yeah, which might account for
So,
it.
so I would suggest, just at face value, that, that's reflecting that, that return to the 10%,
Yeah.
more than a greater number of ratepayers.
Yeah, yeah.
And in terms of the numbers of properties in arrears, et cetera, I mean, we can have a look at that. We have still got that on the water report. If you look down at the bottom of the water
Yes.
report, but we seem to have lost it on the rates report. So sorry about that. We can look to put that back in.
Yeah, that'd be really helpful. And then my last comment generally is, we're having more focus on the collection of DCs and stuff like that. And I'd really like a more integrated or holistic approach to it. So I'd appreciate, a good open discussion about the kind of stuff that we'd like to see, the way that we can keep tabs on how it's tracking and the assumptions behind how quickly they might have been expected to be repaid and what it's looked like now, and, like all that sort of more dynamic stuff. Yeah, and I wondered if we could sort of have a workshop on it or something like that.
So look, we are very close to to developing some additional metrics that would go and so how we have that risk report that appears on page 38 of the agenda. So we have kind of developed a second page to that with a number of graphs, including actually the debt headroom. So a debt headroom graph, a couple on DCs. So we've sort of actually 3 on DCs. They're very much in development stage where we're anticipating we'll be able to put that into next month's finance report. So happy for that to be an evolving process. So I think if we can show you what we've developed up, then we're really open to comments in terms of potentially evolving that further. Yeah.
Lou,
To quickly follow on from exactly what Councillor St Pierre was saying, I just noticed that with building consents, we're down 25% on actual building consents granted. However, financially, we're down 49%. So is that relating to a fact that we're having smaller buildings, or is there's some factor running here? Because it's almost half the amount of, or double. I mean, something to look at, the risk factor, what's actually happening underneath that.
Yeah, I guess, I mean, I guess that indicates that the building consents are of a lesser average value.
Yes.
That are being consented and, reflecting higher interest rates and all that stuff, in all likelihood.
Yeah, could well be that. I guess it could well be a shift away from commercial, but less commercial consents and more in the residential space. But yeah, but look, those numbers have been tracking in a similar fashion for several months. So yeah, I mean we can reach out to the likes of Wayne and Carl and perhaps get a bit more information. Actually, I think don't these get reported to one of the other committees as well? So yeah, might even be that's a better place to ask that question while you've got Carl and Wayne, etc. in the room. But yeah.
Just a thought on my behalf was that does this reflect the urban or duplex type housing developments more than not, or something along that line as well?
Yeah, look, it could do. Lou, I'd only be guessing, but yeah, we can certainly find out or ask it another committee. Yeah.
Monty.
Just one minor point following on from Councillor St Pierre. The vested assets, roads and footpaths sitting at 163%. To me, that's just not an important metric in any way because vesting's a vesting, happens when it happens. And I mean, it doesn't affect anything apart from the subsequent year's depreciation, really. So I don't know. Is that a fair comment, Ken?
Yeah, I guess it is. We have potentially in the past had some lags in that area, although it's an area where you don't want any lags because it can pop up as an audit issue, obviously, in terms of the timing of recognition of the revenue. But yeah, but I mean, you're quite right. It's certainly not a cash thing. We're being invested in an asset. I mean, you could argue we're being vested a liability because we need to maintain it from that point forward. So look, it's probably not. I mean, I agree with the sentiment, Mike. It's not nearly as a key thing to keep our eye on as some of the stuff in the revenue space. The actual DCs, cash that's coming in the door, etc. And some of these other ones that we've just been talking about, the building consents and the resource consents. I mean, that's cash coming in the door, and then paying for operational expense in terms of the staff that are processing those concerns, etc.
Okay, well, that being the case, let's move to the recommendation on page 35. Can I remove a Lou? Thank you. All in favour? Oh, we have a seconder. Seconder, please. Mike, thanks. All in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Contrary, no. It's carried. Moving to item 8. Thanks, ladies. David, quarterly property services report. You're certainly busy boys, which I'm very, very pleased to see.
Yeah, kia ora, Mr. Chairperson, members of the Finance and Corporate Committee. Today I present you with the Property Services Quarterly Report for the third quarter, so that's January 1 through March 31st. I'd just like to highlight some areas of the report and then I'll take some questions. Our financial position is showing good stead, receiving 71% of our income versus 79% of our operating expense. The level of service performance measures are showing well and the team responding to the customers as they come through. In the activity development space, the Cambridge Town Hall, the Cambridge Clock Tower is going well, with an anticipated completion date a few weeks after the scheduled end date, and that's due to shipping delays, as you'll be aware of the Middle East issues that are happening at the moment. Forestry, we're bringing a workshop to you at the end of this meeting to discuss the forestry replant program. The business accommodation strategy, we're also bringing a workshop to you at the end of this meeting. The lease portfolio has continued to improve with the team bringing numerous new and renewed leases lately. The Karapiro Lake Domain retaining wall is going to be deferred through to the 25-34 LTP program, and that's just due to complexities of that project. The original project was just through to the high performance rowing, but there is erosion past that and also going around the high performance kayak. So we'll be looking at a larger program for that one. A renewal of the end of life.
Could I just ask a question about that erosion? Yeah, because is it impacted by the way that the hydro dam is operated? Like, there have been comments made to me in the past that the change in the lake level, which is driven by hydroelectric use, actually has an impact on, you know, the amount of erosion you get. And is there an opportunity to sort of talk, is it Genesis? I don't know who owns it, or Mercury, yeah, about ways that they could operate so that the erosion risk is reduced? I'm just asking, I have no idea, but yeah, there were comments made in the past by, actually it was Councillor Milner, that's all she mentioned.
Through the chair, I do know that Meridian are doing replacements of their asset there. They've completed the first shoot and they're working through on the second shoot. The reason I know that, my cousin's in the middle of it. And whilst that is happening, they are using the floodgates a lot to disperse of the water. So there is a little more water movement within the lake. What we're seeing is previous erosion structures are failing, and it's back to the 60s and 70s of the concrete tyres and the railway lines and stuff like that. So we just want to assess that and get a better outcome. Moving on, our renewal of some end of life light fittings in part of Wilson Street will see an estimated 40% savings on the power costs. That's LEDs have been installed, which is great. Capital renewals on the pensioner housing and residential housing portfolios progressed well, and we're taking the opportunities as those units become vacant to address the aged asset in there and renewing those. 101 Bank Street has seen leaks being fixed on the end-of-life roof membrane above the entrance to Bank Street. Upon further inspection and gutter failure was detected, and work is underway to rectify that at the moment. But most of that program on this building is programmed for the 25-34 LTP program. The Sir Don Rowlands Centre has had the first aid room, which is below the bleachers. There was a significant leak in there that caused a lot of damage. And we've pulled that back, had engineers in there and remediated that work. It was flashing that was underneath the bleach seats that wasn't adequate for the change in our weather patterns of the driving rain and the volume of rain coming through. So the water was going up underneath that flashing and then down into that room. As in the report, you'll see the new 10-unit pensioner housing at Vale Court is progressing well. There are a couple of photos that are past this quarter, so but it is an exciting project that's coming forward. Dr. Todd, there has in the pension units there has been some develops of some cracks on the exterior cladding. This has been assessed by an engineering consultant, consent lodged, and we've got work programmed to remediate that in November and December 24. As you'll see, the waiting list for the pensioner housing indicates that there's still a very strong need for pensioner housing. And just to let you know, the new units at Vale Court will not address this waiting list. Properties that we've got on the market at the moment, due to my twin, we have 2 lots at Beachy Street in Pirongia, 2 houses at Blundell Place in Te Awamutu, and 1 house at Roach Street in Te Awamutu, and 1 house and section at Herbert Street in Kiiki. So we've had some offers, but we're just not the offer that we're looking for. And plus, of course, we've got the sale of the land improvements at the top 10 in Cambridge as resolved by council recently. Documents executed under delegation is 3 horse grazing leases that have been entered to along the southern town belt at Lamb Street and Cambridge. And then finally, clause 3.4 gives you an indication of the key priorities for the property team in Q4, along with BAU and enhanced annual plan needs from us. I'll take any questions.
Yeah, that's good work, David and team. So questions from Claire and then Roger.
Yeah, thanks, David. I'm looking forward to the workshop about the forestry. Fantastic work. Looks like you're pretty busy all the time, and it's really great to see the progress. My question is about the last item under 3.4, right at the end above your signature. Support the delivery of any wider organisational arrangements entered into for the development of affordable housing. I'm very interested in affordable housing. So what exactly can you foresee that you guys are going to have to be doing to sort of see that, I suppose, realised?
So through the chair, with the property committee, the staff property committee, we're looking at options that can deliver affordable housing. Some of the work that's being done presently, we've got Te Rahu subdivision development that's coming on, and we're also looking at other land that can possibly be steered in the direction that can provide affordable housing. The question is, a lot of on their minds is, what is affordable?
Oh, yeah.
And if you're looking at land values and houses, and then so it's a complex, tricky question but we are working with a committee to look at options.
Cool, thank you.
Yes, thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. I think the Vale units look tremendous. Previously, when we've discussed this, there's been an acknowledgement that our waiting list wouldn't be given any type of priority, but there is the possibility that some could move in. But your comment that you've just made perhaps concerns me a little when you say there will be no addressing of our wait list. So I wonder, as the overall provider of this facility, where is the benefit to us and our community if we're not providing accommodation or the opportunity for that accommodation to our waiting list? It seems, we've got two questions there, and they not seem to be matching up for some reason.
Yeah, through the chair. Yes, good questions. Firstly, the agreement with Habitat for Humanity has Habitat for Humanity running the complex. Our benefit is that we're receiving good rent back to pay for the cost for the asset to be built, and in the long term, the asset remains ownership of council. So from a revenue return to pay for an asset, that's a good business. Talking with Habitat for Humanity, they have got, and this is quite shocking, they have people that are 60 that are living in hotels that have no family, no income, and no support. So those will be the first that will go into, so they're not even hitting their waiting list. They're theoretically, it's people that are in extreme dire straits that will be moving into those units. And when you go and see them, it's going to be an awful lot Christmas time for those people. So while it doesn't address our need, it certainly does address the need in the community.
I suppose that the extension to what you've just said is that we're actually going into a business of providing rentals for revenue, not providing accommodation for our own pensioners who are on a waiting list, which is our purpose. I think, there's a difference between those two. Are we in the business of providing commercial rental accommodation and hence revenue, or providing pensioner housing for our own? Two different objectives there, I would have thought.
Yeah, clear.
Well, just on that, Roger, I mean, one of the reasons why we're going into a partnership with a community housing provider is that they can get that rent, that supplemented, rental payment. Because at the moment, our pensioner housing stock, we can't charge market rent, so it's actually not sustainable for us. Like, we're going to end up one day not being able to meet our expenses. So it's a kind of a way that it is looking after the interests of Waipa residents that will be able to be in our units. And I thought that we'd ask for a policy with Habitat that they would give priority to Waipa, people with a connection to Waipa. I thought that was part of it as well. So, I mean, so I support the strategy that we've gone down because it helps us in the long term to keep providing the service, but it's still probably not going to solve all our problems, but
No.
in the interim it'll help.
And I guess that's my question is, so are the people going into these units Waipa, they are Waipa residents? Okay, because I mean, whether they're on our waiting list or not, as long as they are currently Waipa residents, I think we are doing what we want to do.
Yeah, just through the chair to add to that, the latest 2 people that they have put into housing have come from the hotel just down the road.
Liz?
Yeah, and I think if we reach our end objective, which is to home our elderly who have Waipa residents, I'm not too worried how we get there, as long as our objectives are being met and we're filling a need for our people.
Yeah. Lou?
Yeah, thank you. Just, I don't know whether I missed this or not, but under the S23 of the Public Works Act, will there be any cost to us over that with that process? Does that go through a court? This is for Albergoodoo Way on stormwater on C1. Is that going to actually cost us money? We have to go through a process, I know, but is there any legal cost to us over this? And can we reclaim any of that? Because this process has gone for a while, and we've had 3 months of actual arbitrary, as I say, or compulsory negotiation. Now we're in a situation, we've got to go through the Public Works Act. I just wondered where and what that costs us, how it works.
Yeah, through the chair, that discussion has been in public excluded.
Yeah, okay,
So
it was raised here, that's all. Okay, I'll exclude that. The next thing I just wanted to raise was the Stockade Reserve, and on last Friday we were at a hui, and one of the things that was raised at that hui was the lack of knowledge of us developing that piece of ground with some of the local iwi. That was actually quite openly raised with me, that they would like to have a little bit more information before we went further. So that's something to just mention to everybody, take a note of it, and perhaps let you, Dale Marie.
Just to respond to that, and sorry, Andrew, for coming back to Lou directly. I think what we need to do inside here is look at who's having the conversations with the different people and kind of corral that in a bit. And I know that these 2 gentlemen approached me the last time about that process. But yeah, we've got council workers talking to some people, and then, and I think there is one of the fundamental breakdowns to why those people at the hui last week were not fully informed. Kia ora.
Okay, well, yeah, I think we've got to the point where we can move to the resolution. You know, lots happening and great to see it. You guys are doing well. So page 46 is the recommendation. Do we have a mover, please? Thanks, Monty. Thanks, Bruce. All in favour? Contrary, no. It's carried. Item 9, community lease for a property that's hopefully going to be the men's shed in Leamington. This time I can welcome Andrew. Awesome. And
Vicky's from the bench.
Oh, and Miles, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity.
No, our pleasure.
Start again. Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon, committee members. Just for the record, my name is Andrew Don and I'm with Council's property team. I would like to take this opportunity to introduce to you Mr. Miles Prebble. Miles is the secretary of the recently formed Cambridge Men's Shed. I seek leave to have this report taken as read, and I'd just like to make some brief comments before we get into some questions. The purpose of this report is to seek approval to enter into a new community lease with the Cambridge Community Men's Shed for the building at 104 Carlisle Street, known as the Leamington Dairy Factory. While the dairy factory is currently leased to a local contractor, leasing this property to the men's shed is, in staff's opinion anyway, a better use of this asset when we consider all the benefits. The existing tenant has a 3-monthly tenure, and we have advised them that council staff have been investigating the possibility of leasing the building to a local community group. The cost to upgrade the building to a basic standard for this men's shed group has been costed at $39,834 plus GST. Now, council have set aside $15,500 plus GST in our preventative maintenance for this building, and the balance of the $24,334 would be raised by the men's shed. Thank you.
Monty.
I didn't actually say anything, but I'd love to move this, fully support. I've got nothing to add. It's a great use of that building. Totally into it.
Thank you.
So I did move.
Right, Roger.
Sorry.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I think this is a fabulous idea. Really do. Great use of that building. And I see all of the identified items that you've got in terms of spending the 39,000. But having driven round there a little bit, isn't there an issue with drainage around particularly the roadside of the building? That is there the intention to put any solid form parking there on the berm or something of that nature to prevent any further damage through the flooding that occurs there?
Through the chair, that's a good question. What's happened is we've had the contractor with heavy truck and trailers coming and going on that site, and when I talked to our transport manager, Mr. Brian Hudson, about it, he was overjoyed to the fact that these tenants would be going because private vehicles will be driving onto the site, and it will be a lot different. In terms of the longer term, we would hope to maybe fence the site in due course and maybe seal it, but that's not what we're asking for today.
Yeah. Okay. I'd like to second it as well, by the way, if I could. Very much in favour of this. So.
I actually think Dale Marie's already seconded it, but we're not going to fight over that.
No.
I have a mover and a seconder, so I'm going to put the motion, which I think is a great idea as well. So all in favour?
Aye.
Contrary, no. It is carried. Congratulations, Miles. And
thank you. Thank you very much.
Watch the screen.
Okay, item 10.
It's the gifting of the youth.
Yes, indeed. So you can stay here. Yeah. Okay, so item 10 is going to be introduced by Ken and spoken to by Ken.
Yes, so look, I'll certainly talk to this this item. I think the bulk of the info that.
Sure.
Oh yes, that's fine. Yep.
Well, yeah, I suppose that technically you should leave the room.
Okay, so we'll just give a moment for that to happen. Thanks, Councillor. Okay, so yeah, look, I think the majority of the info you should be after is in the report. So look, this is, I guess, the culmination of a conversation that's been happening over the last year or two, between myself and Claire Vincent, who looks after our fleet, with the chairman or the president, I believe, of Cambridge Tree Trust, where I guess they expressed an interest in any of our vehicles that were being disposed, they were just keen to touch, keep touching base in terms of the timing of our renewal program. It's actually taken us a wee while to get to this place. Like I say, the conversations happened over a year or two because they were quite specific about the vehicle, and it's only in very recent times that we got to the point where we were actually renewing a vehicle that met their needs. So we are at that point now. They've had a look at the vehicle in question. In fact, they've actually taken it and given it a few mechanical checks and once-overs, and they are very keen on this particular vehicle. Now, I guess the thing is, in terms of we have had some precedent for this, as I refer to in the paper, where we have had a couple of other community organisations that their community work is very intensely involved in the use of a vehicle. So those examples being Rotary Cambridge Urban Miners a couple of years ago, and then ComSafe on a couple of occasions as well, where this council has determined that rather than sell the vehicle through Turners where we normally sell it, and then pump the proceeds of that back into the fleet renewal program, that on the basis of the work that these groups do, and like I say, the importance of a vehicle to those groups, that will actually gift the vehicle instead. So it's not without precedent. This one is probably a little bit up there in terms of the price range involved. So you can see on page 67, this particular vehicle that they're interested in has been assessed as likely to have a range of $8,000 to $11,000 at auction. So potentially that's the amount that we're potentially foregoing in terms of lost proceeds. In terms of those other examples that I quoted, in one case it was around $2,500 to $4,500, and the other case around $5,600. So we're talking about for $5K or so in terms of $3 to $4K, $3 to $5K in terms of lost proceeds. This one is a wee bit more in terms of that 8 to 11. But look, credit to the Cambridge Tree Trust. We have got another couple of other vehicles that are coming up for renewal right now as well, and they have actually gracefully chosen the cheapest of the cheapest of them, and the highest K. So look, they've very much been working with us to work on a solution that obviously fulfills their needs, but trying to keep this least cost for council. The only other tweak to this, or to the norm, or the only thing outside of the norm that I'd perhaps suggest with this, and it does come through in the resolution, because of course the Tree Trust haven't had any certainty on this. In fact, I don't have any certainty on this until a decision today. They did put in an application to the recent Cambridge Community Board discretionary funding round, and they were successful in winning a $2,000 grant towards the cost of purchasing a vehicle. Now, of course, if we today determine, if you determine that you'll give this vehicle to them for free, then obviously they won't be needing that $2,000 to purchase a vehicle. But look, in thinking that through, and given that this is an entity that is delivering what it delivers in the Cambridge community, and in thinking about what the intention was of the Cambridge Community Board, that they wanted to give a financial contribution to ensuring that they had a vehicle. Look, I think it is appropriate that I do talk to the Cambridge Community Board about that $2,000 coming into the fleet disposal budget, to offset the lost revenue. Look, I think that's a discussion that is worth having with the Cambridge Community Board, because, like I say, certainly their intention has been met in terms of that Tree Trust having a vehicle. But look, we'll see how that goes. But I did build that into recommendation B. But look, that's it. Very happy to take any questions on this matter.
I have lots of questions. Claire, Lou, and Liz.
Yeah, so I support the intent of the whole proposal. My question would be, how would auditors view the fact that we have Waipa District Council grant money ending up in a Waipa District Council fleet account? That's all. I know that there was separation, but just outsiders looking in, I just question if they'd see that as appropriate. I don't know if we can take that $2,000. I think, because what would happen if the Tree Trust was any other organisation that applied for a grant to the community board for a project, and then they realised they didn't need that money after all, what they would do is they would give it back to the community board. They wouldn't give it back to the council.
Oh,
you know?
no, I don't think there's a problem there personally.
Well, I mean, Ken's the expert
Yeah.
when it comes to external audit.
Oh, look, I don't know if I can speak on behalf of an auditor. I was one at one point in my life, but yeah, I certainly wouldn't put myself out there in that category. Look, it's something that we'd certainly be transparent about. We'd make sure there was a good audit record in terms of what happened. And look, this is $2,000 we're talking about, so it's pretty insignificant in terms of audit materiality, etc. And like I say, I think it's just all about well, in fact, I'd be interested to hear Monty's view, perhaps, without putting you on the spot, because Monty was obviously sitting around the table in terms of determining that that $2,000 grant. There was really good support for it. That support is very much based on the fantastic work and the volunteer effort that actually I pick up on this in the paper really, and in terms of that organisation over many years. So there was that grant was absolutely made with the interest of benefiting the trust, and we do achieve that purpose just through perhaps a slightly different method than what was intended. But look, it's $2,000. It's not worth losing a lot of sleep over. But yeah, look, I think it would potentially meet the audit requirement as long as we were very transparent on it.
Okay, we'll have Monty's comment before we go to Lou and then Liz.
Thanks, Andrew. Yeah, when I read this, I thought, I'm sure Cambridge Community Board would like the $2,000 back. But the way I reconciled this in my head is Cambridge Community Board gives the Tree Trust $2,000. It purchases a ute off Waipa, who effectively gift 6. If you do it that way in your head, that kind of works. And that's probably how I'd do it. And yeah, it's hard for me to speak for the community board, but I think they'd live with that. But I don't think you want to be saying we're giving the ute for free to the Tree Trust, and then, by the way, Cambridge Community Board, we want that $2,000.
Effectively paying $2,000 for it, Lou.
Really, all I want to do is move the motion and just simply say that I'm absolutely happy with this. Having worked with urban miners and seen the success of that vehicle regularly, I think this is absolutely brilliant and it aligns with our anchor institutions. So I think this really currently aligns with the whole thing. So I'd like to move the motion.
All good. Liz?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I mean, there are not many people who actually really fully understand how much work the Tree Trust do around Cambridge. Susan and I went with them for a morning. We just couldn't, it just blew our minds. They cover so much of our community land, council land around the Cambridge surrounding area. It's incredible. And I've got, so second motion, no problem.
Thank you for that. Bruce?
Before you put that motion, Ken, could you talk about that $2,000 being as running costs for that ute? Can it be used for that core, providing as a condition that I don't.
Yeah, so look, I think through the chair, I mean, that's perhaps departing. I mean, that's actually a far greater departure from the resolution made by the community board the other night, because I mean, there's no doubt about it. They were asking for a grant towards the purchase of a vehicle. That's what they're asking for. So I think when you get into running costs, you're into totally different territory. So yeah.
Roger?
Yeah, thanks. Through you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, the way that I read it, the proposal that you put to gift the vehicle to the Tree Trust was made as an independent decision, and you're quite happy to gift that at no return to the council. The second issue is the fact that the grant was made by the community board to the trust for a particular purpose, where they no longer have that purpose because they're not purchasing a vehicle, they're being gifted a vehicle, therefore the money should go back to the community board and hence be made available to somebody else in the community.
Okay.
So I would suggest there are two different things.
Yeah, okay, so look, that's not what the resolution says.
I know.
And I do have a mover and a seconder for the resolution. Yeah. So, but before I put it, I will hear from Mike, and then I will put it.
Through the chair. Tell me if I'm wrong. I think the resolution is wrong from what I've heard. Because shouldn't a resolution, we're not giving a vehicle away, we're charging $2,000 for the vehicle. Doesn't it need to be changed? Just change it to, we're charging $2,000 for the vehicle. That's just transparent. That's what we're talking about here, isn't it?
Yeah, look, I think the resolution as it stands, I don't disagree with you, but it's saying the same thing to me. And as I said, I have a mover and seconder for this resolution. I have to put it.
Yeah.
So I will put it right now. All in favour, please say aye. Contrary, no. It's carried. We will move on.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look, I think in that respect, I think the resolution is still quite transparent in terms of offsetting part of the costs of the gift. So yeah, so sentiments taken, but yeah, I think we've got enough transparency here. Yeah.
And we I'm not going to waste our time over $2,000. I have no concerns.
Look after the pennies
Literally,
and the
I have
pounds
no
will look
concerns.
after themselves, Mr Chair.
Yeah. So, yes, just trying to find Philip. He seems to have gone missing.
Just before we finish, Mr Chair, just a point of notification. 4 years ago, we had a Finance and Corporate Committee meeting that went viral. As of today, it's got 1.9 million views. Just a frivolous piece of information.
Although it's interesting you say that, because I was thinking it was actually the April meeting. It was last month's meeting was the one when we had all the CCOs in to talk, and it did come through my mind that yeah, that's what happened 4 years ago. So yeah,
We will carry on.
it's incredible, isn't it? It's incredible. Yeah.
I wish. All right, order, please. Thank you. Phil's missing, but we're carrying on. So could I have a resolution, a mover to exclude? Thank you, Claire and